Hi, welcome to the Stockinit Zombies. I'm Amy, also known as Janitma.
And I'm Megan, also known as Just Run It. And this is episode 127. 127. It's a fun number.
Yep.
Is it prime?
I don't know all the prime numbers.
I don't even.
My brain's like, can I do
3, 4, 5, no, 6. 7?
So exciting.
It is. I mean, I really enjoy numbers, and I hope you do too.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a very exciting weekend. I would go so far as to say it was a whirlwind weekend.
Yes.
We went to Yarnover, which is held up in the Twin Cities by the Minnesota Knitters Guild, or if you're like me, you might say Minnesoters Knitters Guild.
Yeah, it's knitters.org, yo.
They claimed that. They staked that early, I bet. I think it's the largest knitters guild in the United States, or maybe it was at one time.
Could have been at one time. I don't know. There might be others out there giving us a run for our money.
I bet Wisconsin.
Yeah.
They seem
like very active.
Yes, they seem like they have a very active guild. But anyway, we were going to briefly recap the shenanigans that were last weekend. So we both went up on Friday. Mm-hmm. Amy did some shopping.
I did. I bought jeans and
got a really good deal.
Yes, 2 pairs for $25.
And they weren't at Old Navy.
Yeah, exactly. It was not Old Navy. Yeah, and then just basic things that I needed. And yeah, I was good. I behaved myself.
And I went to a salad and coffee place, which is basically Megan heaven. Coffee, salads. That's me. Okay. That's like what I want to eat when I go out to a restaurant. I met up with some knitter friends. We had a gal walk up to us and say, "Well, hello, I'm a knitter and I see you're knitting." And we invited her to sit down, and she was just kind of like, "Oh my goodness." And her husband was in town for some sort of orthodontia conference. And she was happy to have us as a little surrogate. She was from Iowa.
Okay.
It's a little surrogate knitting group, which was kind of fun. And then Friday night we went and saw Franklin Habit speak at the dinner that the Minnesota Knitters Guild puts together. And you pay, and then you get to eat a very nice meal. The Marriott puts together a very nice meal. And then you get to hear Mr. Franklin speak.
Yeah, so the year before was Stephanie Pro McPhee did a talk, and while you're eating, all the tables, the teachers are distributed throughout the room, and so you pick your table and you get to sit with some professional teacher speaker ladies.
We were with Fiona Ellis, and we had 2 at our table.
Lucy Nitby.
Yes.
Or Neatby.
And Lucy is not her real first name.
Right, that's what I learned.
But Franklin said that the year before he had agreed to give the speech, and we had him back so often, us Minnesota knitters, that he'd done all of his speeches for us. So he premiered a new speech about the powerful crafting goddesses in his life, and the imprint that they left on him, what he kind of had left. One of my favorites was, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing over.
Yeah.
And I was like, amen, because that's like my world. Like, I feel like, well, I could leave this as is, or I could rip it out and be really happy with it.
My favorite person was his aunt.
Oh, yes. Who just loved beauty.
Yeah, loved beauty.
Find beauty in everything. She was a motorcycling hairdresser, but she loved beauty and everything. And then he has designed shawls for Skacel and other folks that are based off of them. His sister, who is a belly dancer. And and he had the shawls there to look at and feel, and he talked about the construction. It was really neat. It was a neat. It was a very personal speech. So I feel like I got to know Mr. Franklin fairly well on a personal level.
Yeah, it was very nice if you had a chance to see it.
Yep, and he later taught us a class. So
Yes.
fast forward to Saturday morning. I'm giggling at myself already. We had a good time crocheting. It was a steeking class, so we crocheted the steeks rather than sewing them, and which was easy. I found it easy, the crocheting part.
Yeah.
The cutting part was kind of like, okay, I've wrapped everything up. I'm okay with it. It was the darn sewing and pinning that was just, it killed me. I think I spent half of the class trying to pin the zipper into place.
I had plenty of experience. Thanks, Mom. So I was good.
Yeah, and we had some interesting "that's what she said" moments during the class, because we were talking about how it was easier from the backside, and I liked doing it in the backside. And I'm not going to show you my ugly hand stitching stitches, but Amy's look very neat and fantastic. I got to the end and I was like, huzzah, look at Franklin, look what
She Mobiused it. And it was funny because people would be talking to her about her class, and like the first time they all noticed it, they giggle like crazy.
Franklin has said that he has taught this class many times and has never felt the need to put into the instructions, being careful not to twist. But he is going to put it in because of me.
And if you hear a story in his classes about somebody who did this, it's me.
Mine would not be usable as a cowl. And unfortunately, the problem solvers that we knitters are, we have the kind that's stationary at the bottom.
Yes,
so
she cannot just
I cannot
unzip it.
just unzip it. It's fixed. Is that what it's called? A fixed zipper? So I don't know that I'm ever going to use it, but I may practice my steeking and steek another section here, bridge here, so that I can twist it.
Yeah, his class included, the homework had 4 total places where you could steek. So that was his gift to us, was like, okay, if you want to further practice, you have the swatch all ready to go.
So I don't know what I would do with it if I steeked it again. Maybe I could steek it in 2 places and then make a little cozy or something.
Yeah, button band it instead of putting a zipper on.
Yep. Right now it just kind of seems like wasted. A, because it's not a cowl, and B, because it's a Mobius cowl. Just these beautiful floats. Franklin said that Minnesota folks have the best floats.
Yeah.
And I bet he says that about every state. I do not believe for a second that Minnesota has the best floats. But yes, he taught a delightful class. We had a good time with him. Amy took a very funny picture and posted it out on social media.
Well, he was explaining something to Megan, and I was going to take a picture of them being
organically
taking a picture of them getting instruction, but then
the subjects found out that we were having our picture taken, and Franklin got all like pointy and they like laughed at him, and it was all downhill from there. But a great class. Like, steeks have been demystified for me. Like,
absolutely.
I feel like I could sew it, I could crochet it, I can do it.
Right. Of course. And then you see somebody out on Instagram doing one that's like wavy crazy, and you're like, okay, that's advanced.
Miss Amy Beth. She had sewed it, right? You could see the little sewed line on it. Mm-hmm.
Right, but still, again, it was like, well, I did a steek, and I think, this is easy to do, but that looked a little challenging.
Yeah, just sewing it would be challenging, because that was not a straight line in the least. And then we got to briefly have some social time and briefly have some shopping time in the morning and in between classes. But it's so hard to turn these classes down, but every time I do it, I tell myself I'm not going to take 2 classes, because it's just so much. they're 3-hour classes, and the 3-hour classes are just chocked full. And then I didn't get to do much shopping in the market, which we can talk about that in enabling. But got to see Sun Valley Fibers gradients. I got to fondle the dandelion.
She's been so heavily coveting, but
I have wanted it for a while.
But the colors that were there, that were present and able to buy, not appealing. So
yeah, it was, and they may be appealing to you, but there's a dichotomy in the dandelion. So dandelion is by Madeline Tosh, and it's 80%, 90% merino, 10% linen. And so the linen in some of the darker colors doesn't take the dye the same, so it's really obvious. It has a very obvious marl, and that wasn't what I was going for. I liked some of the ones where the linen and the merino took it similarly enough that it wasn't a like really high contrast marl, or you didn't see a lot of fibery bits throughout it. And what Stephen B had there was like Stephen B blue and some really dark colors. He said the other stuff had just flown off of the shelves. And so by the transitive property of going to an event and not being able to get the yarn that you wanted there, I may have some dandelion coming to my house from an online store. But it's totally not cheating, because it wasn't available and I wanted to buy it, and it was just a different color.
Justify.
Yep, I'm really good at proofs. The transitive property of event going means that if it's not there, I can order it online. But yes, and some hand body products, all natural body products that I bought a kit of, and you bought a jewel enclosure. I guess we can talk about that in enabling.
But things that I did not bring. Like, they have all been carefully put away at my home, and I did not remember that, oh yeah, I have a podcast and I need to talk about these things.
So the second class that we took was with Stephanie Pearl McPhee, the Yarn Harlot, and she taught us about knitting for speed and efficiency.
Yes.
And while I have, I wouldn't say zero, but I have very little interest in lever knitting, which is the fastest form of knitting. If you go out and search for lever knitting, you will find some great examples out on the intranets. Not intranets, internets. Although your intranet might have something as well. Depends on where you work. There's a really great history of knitting, which I got a little bit of in Grok the Sock, but this was more with the focus on output and throughput and speed and efficiency. Some really interesting things that she hit were that knitting is fairly young. Knitting started out as a male endeavor because it was for money. And I'm trying to think of the other things.
Well, what really stuck with me is that when you are doing knitting, and she called the factory was a family. And so if you were really good at things, you would be the person who would do the fiddly bits, and then you'd hand it off to the youngster who just learned the knit stitch, and they would just knit in the round. And then when they got to a point where they needed somebody to do something complex, they just hand it off. And I just thought that was fascinating. So you would, before you even learn to cast on or do anything, something would be handed to you already in progress, and you just go around and around and around and around and around. And I don't know, I just thought, light bulb, like maybe that would be a better way to learn how to knit, is having somebody do the fiddly bits for you, and then you just keep practicing the round and round.
Yeah, my daughter has never cast it on. My daughter has never bound off. But yeah, and that she drew that analogy of that family that was churning out knitting to you should have projects that you get to a point where you can she called it dark knitting. But for me, it was, it's TV knitting. It's something where I can watch and have
Or retreat knitting.
Yep, a retreat knitting. Just to have different projects on the needles for specific things, because you don't want to get someplace where you want to be knitting, but it's not an appropriate time, place to be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then some knitting style concepts that knitters and pickers and why certain cultures have rolled brims, because they are typically pickers, because purling is more difficult with pickers
Mm-hmm.
instead of throwers, because throwers have less trouble with purling. And just stylistically, the difference between the three being the picker, thrower, and lever. And I think the class was literally over, and you were like, well, Megan's a left-handed thrower, and Stephanie was like, is that so you can be as least efficient as possible?
I know, yeah.
She literally said that. And she was like, the difference between what you're doing, because when I left-hand throw, I go like this and whatever, and being a picker is very different. And so she was like, just throw that yarn over your finger. And I have been picking ever since.
Okay.
So I haven't picked up the purl. I still kind of purl throw with my left hand, and I have tried the Norwegian purl, which is what she recommended. And I did the ribbing on.
I have been practicing the Norwegian purl.
Yep. Which is pretty. I don't think that it's any faster for me. I think if I were doing ribbing, it is, because I'm not bringing the yarn back and forth. But like if I'm just doing a purl back roll on a shawl, that is way not faster than just bringing the yarn to the front and purling.
Only problem that I found with it is I noticed once I finished executing it, my yarn's in the front.
Oh.
In the sense that I think it's because I see a purl and I bring it to the front as I'm finishing it. And
I haven't had that problem.
It's funny because really every time I'm like, oh, start over, put it in the back.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, and I don't want to give away all of her class, but then another thing that resonated with me is the fairy godmother motions.
Oh.
So if you're doing something, like every single time, and I can't make myself stop doing it, every single time I take the stitch off of this, I pick it up and physically push it.
Yep.
So you're kind of tapping the new stitch on the head and pushing the other one. Yep.
Fairy godmother. Yep.
And I can't bring I can pin this finger down and I can do it, but it's actually slower because I'm like trying to hold it down. So her point was that you have to slow down to get faster. And I believe that. I believe that my picking has been, and my playing around with different pearls has been slower, but I do think that I'm getting faster with the picking. Mm-hmm. And she said just to do it a little bit each night until it drives you crazy and then stop doing it. And I'm not as good at picking without looking as I was with left-handed throwing without looking. So I do kind of revert back when I'm starting to watch television or something. But anyway, really interesting class. If you ever get a chance to take it, definitely go. Stephanie does a much better job of spreading this information than we do.
And it was humorous, and there was a lot of,
and the stages of grief were gone over, and yes, just every opportunity was, and this is what I call cheating. When she was looking at people, and another eye-opening thing, the fastest knitters that have the competition in the Mall of America, they knit about 3 times faster, 3 times as many stitches a minute than I do. 4. You're right, 4 times. 4 times. Like, you were slow.
But I will say we did not give you near as many tips as we got. So we just highlighted the joy, the part that conveyed the joy to me. I really enjoyed that class.
Yeah.
Now Franklin's class, it was nice, and I felt like I was learning the whole time. And Stephanie, I felt like more like history than doing. But then once you got to the doing, it felt very personalized because she was going around to everybody and showing and taking like what you were doing and helping you improve.
Well, for me, it was very hard, and I think it was probably very hard for you too to do the lever knitting because you were holding your yarn in the right hand, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't do it. My right hand doesn't hold the yarn. It's my left. But yeah, it was very, very interesting. Again, go take the classes. Don't take our word for it. If you ever get the opportunity, she was a good teacher, as was Franklin. I felt like I got not nearly enough time to do everything. It was like one of those days that you wanted to have 48 hours in the day rather than 24.
Yes.
But hopefully there's another yarn over, you know.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, if you really wanted to, like, if you wanted to make an event of it, Yarn Over, just become a Minnesota Guild member.
Minnesota.
It's one. And then come on in to Minneapolis, stay at the hotel that they recommend.
On
and
Friday
then
night and Saturday night. Yeah.
Yes. And even longer if you want, because a lot of our local yarn shops that are around the Minnesota Knitters Guild event take the teachers and then host additional classes. So if you're like, well, 2 classes just sounds like a whirlwind and I'm not going to get much done, warning, they're a little bit more expensive than what you're going to pay through the Minnesota Knitters Guild, but not that much more. It's not astronomical. And a lot of them have packages, so you can get, 4 classes for this much, or if you can buy 1 class, it's a little bit more. But yeah, that's another option. You can make a bigger classroom-centric thing of it, and you're going to get Franklin Habit, Stephanie Pearl McPhee, Lucy Knitby, our Knitby, and Fiona Ellis, and all of these wonderful... Amy Deachin, yes. Totally, it's just amazing, amazing teachers. And, too many to mention, actually, because there's way more than what just
there was tons of tables, and, it's definitely an event worth checking out, so do so. We are very spoiled in Minnesota. Don't even have to drive all that far and get to see all of those awesome knitting legends.
Yep.
But we're 20 minutes in. So we talked about Yarn Over. Summer tops.
Okay.
We were going to briefly mention the ones since the May-June KAL is summer tops. You were going to briefly mention the ones that you plan on knitting, and I have a large list of possible ones that range from being free to being paid for patterns, but you are knitting
The Tink Tank by Megan Williams. So I have done the modifications, and I've started the skirt for the dress for my daughter. And I have not held this up to her to see where we're at. I have a lot of yarn left. I figure I could just keep on going.
Are you continuing to increase?
Yes.
Okay. Same rate?
Yes.
Cool.
At some point it might fall off.
Yeah.
But it'd be very twirly. That's good for
my daughter loves the twirly.
So there's this one. And then, like how much of it I can show. Darn Secret Knitting. Must be in here. I have... It's from the Knit Scene.
Bowen?
Yeah.
Bokum?
Amy Christopher's Boka. The Bokeah. Anyway, there. And that has not gotten as much work done on it. But some. It grew by at least another pattern repeat.
So the lace is only at the bottom, right?
And up the side.
Okay. Yep.
So under the arm, like a wide panel on the side. But yeah, I still have quite a bit before I'm done with the, I'm not even sure how many patterns.
Into the Stockinette Zombie portion.
Yes, exactly. So there's that. And the other top that I am contemplating, but have not started yet, is the Somer top. And this is only available at your LYS's. There might be an online shop as well, but it's not a Ravelry download, so you're going to have to seek it out. By Mary Chiba, or Chiba? Chiba? It's Chiba. It's super cute. I love the texture to it. I've already knit with the yarn. This might be a different needle size than what I used for Megan's top. Don't know. Yeah, I think it is. Yes.
So it'll be the same yarn, but on different...
Yeah, on smaller needles. So it will be less drapey, but it looks like it's got a little ease in it as well. So, anywho, those are my summer tops. And I don't have any FOs. Well, I have spinning FO, but not.
Okay, well, the summer tops that and feel free to jump in on the Ravelry boards and tell me you should knit that, or you shouldn't knit that. Or I've knit that and I love it. I have the Hey Hey My My by Mariko Kawamura, which is in my Ravelry queue. I really like the lacy part and then the keyhole at the top, and then it's kind of drapey throughout. I just showed you the keyhole, but if I look at a different one here, it kind of reminds me of the olive a little bit in the shaping on the bottom, or the looseness around the bottom. I have a lot of linen. I've actually pulled up the linen and cotton in my stash, because you can do that in the Ravelry. Say, hey, stash, cotton, linen, cotton or linen. It doesn't have to be both. And as I mentioned, I also have some Dandelion coming. Heidi Kermeyer has a free top called Vesper that's got a cute little pocket, and I believe you provisionally cast on the neckline and then do gathers. And so it's kind of gathered around the neckline. That's probably not the best Photoshop for you. I will link you all of this in the show notes. That one has been in my queue for a very long time as well. Petrie by Bitua Do, which is a knitty pattern, is a tank, but it's got a very interesting neckline up at the top.
I have almost knit that a lot of times.
Yes, has been in my queue for forever. Again, that's another free option if you've got, what yarn does it call for? Some DK. So your Misty Alpaca is a DK. And I believe like Cotlin from Knit Picks is a DK as well. This says Barocco Pure Pima. Another one that's been in my queue, I feel like I'm just jibber jabbering here, and it's free, calls for a worsted, and it's rotation, and the neckline is inspired by, here I'll make it big, by the Shalom, but it's knit in the round and then stripies as a pullover. I think that would be a super fun tee if you had two colors of a worsted weight cotton or something that you were looking to use up.
Or a blend or an acrylic, yeah.
Yep.
Anything that doesn't scream, whoa!
This one is Maud by Diane Mulholland, and it's also free. It's with lace weight though, so this would be if you had some lace weight. I have some lace weight linen from Claudia Hand Paints that I would look at knitting this up. So it's a why can't I think of the name when it's just got the button from here up?
Henley.
And I've really wanted to knit a Henley, and then it looks like some ribbing down at the bottom, which you could easily change to stockinette if you wanted. But that looks fun, lace weight as I said, and it comes in extra small to extra large size. 110 projects. So it's been fairly tested for a free pattern. The knitty patterns I don't worry as much about as the ones that are free on Ravelry, just direct, Knitty gives their stamp of approval. This was one that I was going to knit for Camp Loopy during the last Olympics, because you had to do one from a country that was not your own. And this is La Piece by Kessa and Stitches. It's a very drapey tank, kind of a va-va-va-boom.
Lapis, if you prefer.
La Piece. Lapis. Very drapey up at the top and then gathers at the neck. Actually, I think it's top down. So you start up here and drape and then bring it in under the bust. And it's a tank. It's kind of a va-va-va-boom tank. And I believe there's a K.
It's good shoulders.
Yeah.
Showing off the shoulders.
Look at my lovely shoulders. And it is knit out of DK as well. So a lot of the yarn ideas.
Yeah, sleeveless, zoom.
Out of DK,
yeah.
Except I've heard that the top part, because
Yes.
you've got a bajillion stitches.
That one, not so much, but
Yeah.
the other ones you mentioned, very
Yep.
zoom.
People have used Malabrito Silky and Cascade Ultra Pima. Anyway, last one, Amy's knit it. It's the Catan out of the Knit Scene Winter 2010, Spring 2011. I have the exact yarn that Amy knit it out of, which is the Cotton Silk.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm knitting with right now, yeah. Pima Cotton Silk.
Was it? I thought there was
Yeah.
a different one that you had.
No, it's gray. I remember it. It's in my closet.
Huh. Why did I think I had a different one? Yep, Misty Alpaca Pima Cotton Silk. But it's yeah, okay, yep. I'm going insane. But I have that Knit Scene, and have it. It's got a nice little tie on the side and a cowl neck. I'll bring it up just in case. It's by Melissa Weirley. So those are the patterns that you can either tell me you should knit that or you shouldn't knit that.
Feels like this is growing.
It's getting longer. This distance looks
yeah,
longer.
Yeah, doesn't it? It's like, feels like it's going to be at her ankles.
By the time you're done, you're knitting your daughter a big cotton wedding dress.
Purple.
Yeah, big cotton purple wedding dress. Okay, FOs for me. I finished in time to wear at Yarn Over my Nianin tee. When I pulled it out of the washing machine, again, I'm starting to get a little callous about it, actually, because I just put them in there and I'm like, it's going to be fine. It came out.
Close your eyes.
It came out, and I swear to goodness, I stood in the mirror with it next to my shoulders, and it was down to my feet.
Oh.
Because that ribbing was so stretched out, and it was so wet. And so I actually had to block it, not aggressively, but, laid it out.
And to bring it back up.
Like, stretch it like this way, because, stitches either go this way or they go this way. Mm-hmm. Which we talked about in class. I really like it. It's really soft. Like, I find myself, when I was wearing it, like, kind of, because it's just
rubbing your belly.
Yeah, rubbing my belly and going, And it was very nice. I really like the color. It was a little chilly this evening, or I would have worn it so you could see it on me. Because of the undulation in the stitch pattern, I tried to block this out as best as I could. They show it on the model in the pattern picture that it kind of undulates. Mine kind of rolls under. So it's kind of like what was going on with your Tink Tank, and it's just because it does have positive ease, like it's not a negative ease garment. But
it seemed like it was a negative ease garment, though. I mean, you must have knit to negative ease.
No, I think it was exact, like no negative or positive.
No negative or positive. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't positive ease. Okay.
No. I mean, it's kind of form-fitting. It's mostly, I think it's because it's not the cotton or the linen that it calls for. I think it was supposed to be, so the merino kind of bounces back, right?
Yep,
like
that makes sense.
I block it wasn't as stretchy. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. If you're interested in a cute little tank, lace on big needles, creating lace, really, really fun. I also cast on for my Yarn Over knitting the Mystic Spiral Socks by Josh Ricks, and got my pictures lining with them. And
Featuring the OMG heel.
Featuring the OMG heel. Yep. I made mine the spacious one. And the only comment that I have about the pattern, I enjoy it. It's clear, and obviously it results in a very, very cute pattern where you don't have to do much, but it's enough that it's super fun. You've got these bias strips. I knit until the stripe changed, so I think I knit a little bit more than the pattern called for, and then did the short rows to create this. And it's a little tight. So like when I put it on, because there's this bias strip right above the heel, don't look at my badly painted toenails. It's a little tight. I'm like a little heel bound. I have to do like you were talking about with your daughter, where I have to kind of cinch it up. And so I might try, although they won't be matchy, just, moving it up a stripe when I do the second one. So I haven't gotten to the heel on the second one yet. The stripes kind of are the bias sections are inversed on the other one, but it's just a little too tight. And I thought about going back and adding more stitches or ripping it out, the whole, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing again. But then I was like, no, I'm just going to cast on the second one. So it's a little tight. Once it's on, it's fine. It's just getting it on that's tough. And then this is the ribbing that I did, the Norwegian pearl and
fun.
The whole time. It was my son's birthday as well this weekend, which is why we came back Saturday night.
Yep.
And I did that while we were at Bounce World. Super exciting. We ran around like a crazy kid and enjoyed it. So
I bet.
Can't complain. And so that is a hoe, a FO, and this is my only available safe for on-camera work in progress. So I know you worked on a few other things.
I did. So I was working socks 2 at a time, and then I decided that was too much. So now I have
2 at a time. Too legit to do 2 at a time.
Seriously. This one's ready for the heel to start, I believe, and I'm going to do it either the deep OMG or the OMG, but I haven't gotten to my OMG pattern to figure out if I'm at the right spot, so I just set this down and picked this one up and started going on this one so that I can get to the point where I'm at the heel. So having both of them with me is helping, because I could keep going and I didn't have to stop.
Let's see the pattern.
Okay.
Front.
So this is just a little bit, I don't know if you can see it because red is so hard to photograph and black is even worse. But yeah, this is just me playing around. I'm putting like a tall skip rib at each stripe, and then moving them in, and then after the heel I'll move them back out again, and maybe around the back, depends on how quickly they go around and how quickly I want to bind off.
I like them. Super fun.
But I thought that, yeah, it just
kind of looks like paisley a little bit.
Oh, yeah, true. Yep. Yeah, and they do they're opposite directions, so they are mirrored. And yeah, so I just have to get to my patterns so that I can do my heel, and then once I pick up again, I'll start going back out with it. And maybe around to the back again. Depends on how tall I want.
Wherever the yarn takes you.
Yep.
Super fun.
But yeah, they're good, and I like that I'm tucking the balls in there just while they're stored.
Amy likes tucking in the balls. You knew I couldn't let that one go, Amy. You knew I couldn't.
I know. Don't know who I'm tucking these balls in for. But
you.
Oh.
You and your inversibles. You have a shawl, your pineapple shawl?
Yes. That one got quite a few more rounds. I was knitting on it during our speed and efficiency class, which seemed completely wrong because it was all about knit, and now here we're lace.
But 2 together, and 3.
But yeah.
Oh,
it's growing.
pretty. Yeah.
I'm on the I'm starting that second pineapple, and it's going, and it's fun. I'm not bored at all, and I'm halfway through.
How's your yardage?
I haven't been weighing it, but it looks significantly smaller. So I have a feeling I'll get through this base part, and I'll have some left over, and then I'm just gonna have to start like scouring Ravelry. I already messaged one person that has this base to see if they'd be willing to part with their leftovers from, because they had very good notes like you do. Like, I used 0.6 of this ball of yarn, and I'm like, 0.4, can you send it to me?
I'll take your 0.4. I'll love your 0.4.
I'll pay for your 0.4. Please, send it to me. But they haven't gotten back to me. So some people just aren't as active on Ravelry. Maybe I'll hear back in a week. Who knows?
Yeah, I heard somebody say that the other day. Well, I don't really, it was the gal we were talking to at the coffee and salad place.
Okay.
She was like, I don't really check, I'm not on Ravelry all that often. And Corey was like, well, you can set up Ravelry where it will email you now if you get a message. And I guess I was never on Ravelry when it didn't, auto email me when I had a message. But I guess people don't have that set up, so you don't get emailed when you have a message on Ravelry. You literally have to go out to Ravelry and see that you have a message. So I must have automatically done that, or that option was available when I first signed up, and so it's
I sort of recall when they got that option, and they pointed you to the notifications, and you could decide what things notified you.
Yeah, now that's super cool. You can actually reply to the email that they send to you, and that will reply on Ravelry. Super cool.
It's cool. That is very nice.
Not that I use it often, because I often like to go out, because you can't, in email, you don't see pictures sometimes, and So anyway, just a little pro tip.
And I was kind of out of order, so I'll show my FO.
Oh, yes.
I finished spinning up my poonies.
Pretty sparkly poonies.
So this is an ounce of, I don't know what the content is actually, but it goes with this one. So they're a light
unicorns and
yes, unicorns and fairy dust, and it's so I have this. The darker one ended up being thicker, and again, probably because I wasn't staring at the light one when I was spinning the dark one, and just did what I was doing, and I was getting a thicker yarn, but I think that they will still knit up nicely together, because that was the intent all along. Probably a hat, cowl, or mitts, because it is only 2 ounces of fiber. But I got decent yardage, so I think that I should be able to get those things done.
Cool.
And I'm excited.
And you're going to try to use them together?
Yes.
You may have just said that.
Yes, I did.
You said something about together, and I was like, are you going to use those together? And then we're to the enabling. So, I think I briefly mentioned, I hope, at the beginning that the self-striping and color work are wrapping up, and we'll be drawing for those. By the time this airs, it will be May, and so it would have been time to draw, but we wanted to give people those last 4 hours, should they need them. Enabling. Amy mentioned that hers is not with us.
I have this.
Okay, so you're starting to work. What does yours say? Pause off?
Pause off my knitting.
And mine says cheaper than therapy. I had some indecision.
Holding up the line.
Yeah, I was. They kind of gave me a hard time. And they have this fun little interior pocket.
Yeah, I didn't know that they had that.
Yeah, it was interesting. We spent some of our Friday evening with somebody who gave me a pin that says that I am her favorite knitter. I gave her some swag, because Amy was like, you should give her some swag. And then she gave us, it's purple, fantasticness. We got to hear stories about her shenanigans in Verona, Wisconsin, and
Amy Deachin.
I didn't say.
We said that earlier, but I don't think you mentioned it
Purple.
again. Yeah.
Purple knitter. She is fantastic. Her table was the first to fill up at the dinner, so it is well
Beyond
known.
Stephanie Pearl McPhee,
Yeah.
if you can believe it.
Yes. I also got a Yo sticker from Sun Valley Fibers, which I think is fun because on multiple levels.
Yep.
Just because non-knitters won't get it, or they'll think they get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm throwing back to the 90s and the
Yo.
yo.
Yo MTV Raps.
Yep. And then there was Skin Savvy, S-A-L-V-Y, Salvy there, and they came up with the recipes and the formulas for their products because it was a husband-wife team. The husband had skin issues. And my daughter, every night, I don't know if she washes her hands during the day so often, or if she just doesn't get the soap off, or she doesn't dry them, but her hands are constantly cracked. And I mean, like, I do dishes and give baths and wash my hands often when I go to the bathroom, always, not just often. And my skin isn't cracked, but she has to put lotion on at night and wear gloves because her hands are so cracked. And so I'm very eager for my daughter to try this skin emollient.
Yes.
With lavender oil in it. She's all about the scents. I fear for when she's a teenager and
perfume.
Yes, perfumes, and they say that the boys put on the Axe. You can hardly breathe because they've got so much Axe body spray on. But my daughter won't be doing that. And so I just got their, I wanted to try the orange, I wanted my daughter to try the lavender, and then they had this little set, and this is organic jojoba, I don't know how you say it. And you're supposed to use it for skin, hair, and nails. And then they had a face cream because she said the wife didn't need the emollient.
Yep. So I got the face and body cream and the little emollient that was scented and one that was unscented. And I've been using the cream, but not very much because they were very cautious to say use a little bit at first.
Little goes a long way.
Little goes a long way, and I think, the other day I opened it up and used the emollient on my hands. It was very nice. I did end up feeling very greasy, but I think that's just in my head. Like you keep rubbing it in and then you wash your hands once and you can still feel that it's there, but it's not greasy.
Still with you.
Yeah, it's still with you.
Yeah, they had them out on sticks and I tried some of the emollient and I was like, my hands feel, and he's like, I don't think you need it then. Like if it doesn't like absorb in and feel good on your hands, like your hands are okay. You should just do the face cream or whatever the other one was.
Right.
The non-emollient.
So it's a very intensive one, and a little goes a long way. Again, if you're not really needing it, it does feel kind of, but I just kept rubbing it in and moving it down my arm, basically. Like, okay, something's going to absorb this eventually, and it did. I just would apply it at night after I was done knitting if I were you to start.
But that was all that I really purchased. So, again, didn't have much time to really look. Saw the Dandelion transitive property of Dandelion purchasing. I have some coming from online now. And the Sun Valley Fibers, as I mentioned, the gradients were gorgeous. Was very enabled by other booths as well, but was just like, gotta get back to class. Want to talk to people. So we have a retreat coming up.
We do.
Maybe I'll just go bonkers.
Yes. I have actually, I pre-ordered one skein already because somebody had it in their update. And I was like, but I'm going to see you at the retreat. I don't want to pay for shipping. And I didn't ask her to set it aside. I just said, if you could dye that color again, I would happily purchase it at the retreat. And so I have one of those. And while we were there, I saw Be Lighted, who is one of our vendors, and got to, peruse her wares and bought some Rologs, Puni style Rologs. They're more Rologs than I would say Gourmet Stash is a Puni. Like if you're talking thickness, these are quite a bit thicker. So they're a Rolog more than a Puni. But I haven't spun with them yet. I'd like to give that a try before I tell you more about them, but they look very nice.
Do you like them thicker, or
you're trying to get me to say something?
I knew. I was just over here giggling. Mm-hmm. No reason. And you bought your jewel enclosure, but
yes.
It's different than the leather ones that I got.
Yes, they have new ones that are I don't know what they are. Are they stainless steel? I haven't looked at it, but they're metal. Mm-hmm. And the back leather side that holds it in place is still there, leather, but the front is a very ornate,
more traditional, shawl piece, but without like a stick or a
or a stick pin, or a something that
very
goes all the way
cool,
through.
very pretty as well. You were wearing your Greek Fire.
Yes, I finished that shawl and was showing it off, and as well as the Tink Tank I was wearing that day. It was shedding like no other because I hadn't washed it yet, but it is drying on my floor now, so hopefully it will be worn again soonly.
Every designer needs a friend like Amy, because I don't know, I would feel awkward walking around wearing my own design, I guess, like people asking you like, oh, is that your, what's that tape? I would be like, sorry, self-promotion here. So yes, it was awesome. I really very much appreciated you wearing the Tink Tank. And do we have any more enabling retreat news? We've got class signups will be coming soonly.
Yes.
I'm contacting folks about sending door prizes and goodie bag things. So if you've not received a correspondence from me, that does not mean that we're not interested. It just means that I haven't gotten around to doing it, or I have the wrong address for you. So please feel free to email me, Megan@stockinazombies.com, and that's MEGAN, and I can get you the address to send it and get you on the sponsor list. So we are not exclusive in any way. Anybody that's interested in sending their products to a bunch of enthusiastic vendors from 37 different states, 3 in Canada and 1 Australia. Yeah. We shall take it and distribute it, and everybody was super gracious last year. Like lots of thank yous were sent out, and everybody was really excited about the prizes that we had. So we'd love to be able to do something similar again this year. Truth be spoken. Swag has arrived.
Partially. It's not all here.
Yes, so I guess knock on wood. Yeah. The rest of it still needs to arrive. Schedules are being...
Yes. The schedule's the big thing right now that we're working on, and then other things are rolling. And then we'll have to run after them, catch them, and pull them back into place. But it's happening.
We're doing it.
50 days. It's going to be less than 50 days.
You know what comes after May?
June. Stop.
And May is tomorrow.
June is soon.
June is totally soon, but I'm super excited. Lots of work, lots of fun. Yay.
Yay. Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye, Uvta.